Federal civil rights investigators looking into reports of people being stopped and questioned for hours at the U.S.-Canada Peace Arch border crossing in Blaine last weekend.
Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal pushed for answers after Iranian-Americans say they were detained while trying to cross back into the States from Canada on Saturday. Brandy is here with more on this.
Yeah, so this investigation, according to Congresswoman Jayapal's office, is taking part through the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. So her office says that they were able to confirm that, and they were also able to confirm that that Office of Federal Investigators is sending federal investigators to Washington State to look into all of this. Congresswoman Jayapal putting out a statement on Twitter saying, calling it an important step forward thanks to the courage of those who spoke up to tell their story and our community's collective ability to quickly draw attention to this. She went on to say, let's get answers and make sure it never happens again. So to remind you guys, if you weren't following the news earlier this week of what these individuals say happened, you had some Iranian-Americans coming back into the U.S. at the crossing there in Blaine. Some of them were coming back from an Iranian pop music festival this past Saturday. And of course, we were in the midst of, a possible escalation with Iran. And so some of them say, despite the fact that they are American citizens, they were stopped, in their words, detained for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. Some of them, this included families. Earlier on this week, I had on the executive director of Washington's Council for American Islamic Relations.
If after 40 years of being a United States citizen, just because of one action we've taken in the Middle East that has nothing to do with these individuals, they're being pulled aside as American citizens and then being questioned again, it doesn't seem logical to me. If that individual has no history of travel to Iran recently or any other indications of them being placed into secondary, I don't understand why they're, again, being pulled aside. And for the life of me, I can't understand why they would be pulled aside from 6 to 12 hours.
So the question here that investigators are going to seek to answer from the Department of Homeland Security is essentially, as American citizens, were their civil rights violated? Was this a detention? I know that the Customs and Border Protection has denied that anyone was detained, and I think there's some disagreement about what the word detained means. In the opinion of those who went through this, they say, look, if we were held there for 6 hours, we're certainly not free to leave, so they considered it a detainment. Now, no American citizens, even if they were born in Iran, were denied entry into the United States. But you're talking about prolonged periods of questioning or being held up at the border. And for Governor Inslee, he said that was a violation of their constitutional rights. Congresswoman Jayapal has said it's a violation of their constitutional rights. They pushed for this investigation to happen, and now we're seeing very quickly that it is underway.
And so, I mean, as you mentioned it, for its part, Customs and Border Protection, they've released a statement. They denied it, but they aren't answering questions right now.
Yeah, we reached out for them asking for an interview because you have all these accusations. I mean, the governor of our state is accusing them of lying, of our border protection agents in Washington, accusing them of lying. And that's a big accusation. And so we, had reached out to them with some very simplistic questions, about, is it true? We wanted to even figure out, was it true that they were there for 6 hours or as many as 10 hours as was being claimed? They wouldn't answer that question. They denied our requests for an interview. I asked them to clarify whether this was a detention as it was being kind of characterized. They declined to answer that question. So it's very hard for us, absent any information from Customs and Border Protection, to be able to square the stories that we're getting. So hopefully the Department of Homeland Security's civil rights investigators will be able to get some of those answers that Customs and Border Protection refuses to give to us.
It would be helpful. Yeah.
It would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, yes, to get some of these stories straight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.